And welcome back here on the Roundtable program. As always, we appreciate you taking some of your Sunday out to spend with us, time from your Sunday to spend with us. We wanted to focus on a story that has been in the news over the last month or so. Changes from the trucking industry, looking at changing hours that drivers are allowed on the roads. Just a few weeks back, there was an accident out on the East Coast involving actor and comedian Tracy Morgan. Walmart truck driver admitted after the accident that he had been on the road for some 24 hours before this accident happened, and he might have nodded off in the process. But that is just a small part of this discussion. As everybody knows, the automobile industry, the intermodal in North Baltimore and around these parts, transportation is vital to our success as an economy here in Northwest Ohio and Southeastern Michigan. Keith Tuttle, he is the founder of Motor Carrier Service Incorporated, joining us here this afternoon on the Roundtable, and Dean Kaplan, CEO of K Limited Carrier. Thank you so much for both being here and discussing this very timely issue. And Keith, we'll open up the floor just to you, and in this discussion with the potential of changing hours that drivers are allowed out there on the roadways. Safety comes into it, the economy comes into it, the government's against changing the hours. Where do we sit locally?
Well, let's make sure everybody's entitled to their own opinion.
Sure.
Let's talk about the facts. The facts are these. We're not talking about rewriting the hours of service. We're talking about going back to the system that helped us to be the safest we've ever been. Two rules that have been effective within the last 2 years. One of the rules calls for a 34-hour reset, but it means 2 consecutive nights off, which in a lot of cases means more trucks on the road at the busiest times. It's not established.
The busiest times being when?
Usually during the day,
okay.
Usually incorporating with more car traffic. The old rule said you had to reset for 34 hours, 1 night off, but for 34 hours. The new rule with the 34-hour reset says it has to be 2 consecutive nights off.
Okay.
If a truck driver, his consecutive nights off mean Sunday and Monday night, on Tuesday morning he's back in traffic. If one of my drivers gets in on Friday night at 3 o'clock in the morning, that means Saturday night and Sunday night he is off without being paid. It's lost production for him, it's lost revenue for us, and there is no scientific basis for that change. All we're asking for is to go back to the rules that have been in effect for many years. And Jeff, I sent you some safety facts that said we're the safest. Before the rule change, we were the safest ever in our history. And we're just asking for the rules to go back to the way they were. It's not a complete rules change. It's to go back to the way they were before, a year or 2 earlier. It's not a complete rewrite of the rules.
Accidents like this that we saw, they seem to get that flash in the pan moment, but it's the minority versus the majority of what's being done out there on the road, say you. Yes, Dean?
Absolutely, and my colleague Keith, he said it. He said it precisely, and nothing's going to change immediately. The earliest would be probably by August, and most likely after post-election.
August of this year or next year?
This year.
Okay.
Most likely, though, that really will be after November. At least that's our take on it, or my take on it. But the only thing, when you hear people, and I've heard over the last couple of days because of this incident in New Jersey, drivers are going to be able to drive 82 hours and things like that. That is absolutely not true. Nothing is going to change, but we did win. You know what the trucking industry wants? We want a level playing field, and we want a good, true study. The study that put this, suspended this 34-hour restart and put the trucks on the road early in the morning, that means 5 a.m. and after, that study was done with 106 drivers. Our group, our industry has a
very small sampling.
Very small sampling.
Yeah.
We have a group in Washington, D.C. called ATRI, and you can maybe help me with the exact words.
American Trucking Research Institute.
They took this study with thousands, okay, and basically came to factual information that the FMCSA study was just not accurate. So all the trucking industry is trying to do is to get a level playing field and a fair, comprehensive study.
How does the state look at it? Obviously, we're talking about national implications, but how does the state look at it?
From a state's viewpoint, these are all federal rules and
Okay,
regulations.
okay.
FMCSA that my
So it
counterpart,
supersedes anything that...
yeah, the FMCSA, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, I think Dean and I would both agree that we are the most regulated, deregulated industry of any industry in the country. For a driver to be successful, I mean, we have a 0 drug tolerance rate. We have a much lower alcohol rate that can be in our drivers' blood. The restrictions that are put on our drivers and our companies are just brutal. And I have to inform you and your audience, Jeff, that safety at Dean's company, at my company, at the vast majority of companies in this industry, safety is our #1 priority. I've given you some facts and figures as far as the percentage of accidents that are a result of the car drivers' mistakes. In over 80% of the...
I was going to say the majority of the mistakes and accidents that happen, the driver of the smaller vehicle is causing it.
In our little company, we've had 3, and we refer to them as crashes this year, all the mistake of the car drivers. All mistakes that put my drivers, 2 of them, my drivers were injured. One, a driver was texting, ran into our driver head on. Our driver was off work for 2 weeks, but in the vast majority of instances, it is the car driver's fault. It's not the truck driver's fault. And these are facts backed up by companies such as AAA.
I said, I made a blanketing statement at the top, Dean, and I said, you know, how vital trucking is to this area. And does it still seem that way as far as, well, we have all this intermodal discussion and how important it is to get from place to place.
I'm going to tell you, intermodal represents about 5% of all freight traffic. Trucking delivers to every city and every town. Without being critical of the railroad industry, trucking moves over 70% of the freight on wheels, rubber wheels.
Gotcha.
Go ahead, Dean.
It's you know, Jeff, you know what I want to try to turn it to? Yeah, New Jersey, tragic, it happens. You know, I want to focus on, you know, on our drivers. You know, we're 65% of all the freight we move. They're fabulous people. They're no different than our people in any family. They're hard blue-collar workers, roll their sleeves up, go to work every day. Our company and through National Tank and the companies that belong there, you know, it's a family environment. Come and look. I'm going to tell you about a driver at K Limited Carrier. First America's road team captain in 20 years. To be nominated to a group of 16 professionals that travel the nation's highways with the message of safety and how to do things right, and blind spots in trucks. This driver also was a finalist this past April when I was elected, was for Professional Tank Truck Driver of the Year. I have a video.
As you talk about this, and I want to interrupt real quick, does the State Highway Patrol, any type of law enforcement, honor truckers for doing a good job?
Absolutely. They, in the state of Ohio, and you said, you know, there's federal and there's state.
Right.
And each state has a trucking association. The Ohio Trucking Association, very involved. We do a program called DOMDOY, their Driver of the Month, Driver of the Year.
Okay.
My driver that I was speaking about also back in '07 was Driver of the Year in the state of Ohio. The awards are always presented by the Highway Patrol. There's a great bond.
By the colonel of the State Highway Patrol.
Correct. There's a great bond and a great relationship and a great working relationship, you know, with the trucking industry.
Is there too much pressure, I was going to say, on these drivers in this economy to try to beat the deadline, make the deadline?
You know, from a hazmat, and that's what our company calls. I really don't believe. I really don't believe it is.
Yeah.
You know, we want respect. We want courtesy for our drivers. That's more pointed towards the shipping community. They're the ones that you know, can kind of drive. You know, shipments and capacity issues are a big problem right now. And the other thing they're going to point to is, you know, we talk about jobs. In the next 3 to 5 years, and we all know this, or at least Keith and I know it, there's 250,000 trucking jobs out there. I invite you, somebody from your staff, you guys want to really get a feel what it's like? Come and have a terminal visit at K Limited. Sit through one of our training classes. Talk to our certified driver trainers, the mentors of the new people in there.
Yeah.
And these capacity issues, there's just not, you know, there's just not enough of them.
And Keith, this may be sending the beacon out, but as he said, it is a growing industry. It has been a growing industry. Is this a place where jobs are going to be readily available in the next couple of years?
Absolutely correct. It's a challenging job. It requires tremendous attention, but it is a growing job, and trucking will continue to be the leading provider of freight services in this economy. The railroad is limited in terms of their capacity, and trucking will continue to grow. It's a great opportunity, not only for drivers, it's a great opportunity for mechanics and other support people in our industry.
Dean, 30 seconds, final word.
Final word, we do have a safe industry. We're extremely proud of our industry, great pride, great performance, great professionalism.
And you were honored in April.
As chairman of National Tank Truck Carriers, and it's going to be a great year. I'm doing a lot of traveling, visiting states, a lot of time in Washington, D.C. with our message, and couldn't be prouder of it, and couldn't be proud of an outstanding industry.
Gentlemen, the conversation will continue as we look forward to continuing to update the situation on the trucking industry here in Northwest Ohio. You bet. Stay right there. Final word on